Hey guys, it's Angela, and these are 13 unbelievable wastes of American tax dollars. Please triple check that you're subscribed and let's get into this. Before we start with number one, I want to give you an example of how I did my research so that you guys can understand my way of thinking. In this little investigation, I encountered a few problems, one of them being that the USAID website is down, which actually isn't a problem. It is a huge success. However, the other problem is that many of the websites are just filled with current events, recent news, saying that there's no evidence, and they're basically just debating whether it even happened or not. And so I have to skip through all of this, going back in time to like 2022, 2023, even before that, to get the evidence of where the money went and what it has to show for it. So again, going back to my example of the $50 million spent on condoms, I find it so ridiculous that the conversation is whether this is true or not, and not about what they were using the condoms for, because this did happen. To get any legitimate information, I had to translate to Arabic condoms and Gaza, and then I went to images because I didn't understand any of the words, and I found this. And when I saw this, I thought that it was the funniest thing. I could not stop laughing. That image then led me to an article which I translated using Google Docs, and the content shocked me because it says innovation and creativity dictate the equations. And at first I was thinking, oh yes, innovation, that's so funny. Next, they're gonna come out saying that they're giving $20 million to Gaza in funding a new version of the movie Up, but instead of balloons, it's going to be condoms. And then the more that I read, I realized that this is actually pretty serious. It's not as funny as I was making it out to be. So I found another article. And again, when I saw the image, I was like, oh, they're playing, they're bored, they're entertaining themselves. And then when I translated this article, it said that Palestinian youth have invented a new method of resistance by using condoms. They are filled with incendiary materials after being inflated with air and released in the direction of Israeli settlements, which leads to burning lands and spreading terror. So not only were they funding them condoms, they were literally funding the war. No wonder why it was so much money. It is infuriating that the conversation in our country right now is, oh, Donald Trump is just so crazy for making such random claims. It says young Palestinian men found condoms which international institutions provide. Crazy that that's available news for them, but not for us. It goes on to say that the condoms withstand higher temperatures than other balloons, and its ability to contain large quantities of helium, which help it carry incendiary materials. Condoms in the hands of young Palestinians went from a contraceptive and birth control device to a carrier of wicks and a fighter. These are the types of things that I want to uncover amongst all of these various payments from USAID and the Department of Education throughout this video. I just am shocked that I saw these images and I was like, oh, they're having so much fun. It's like they're flying a kite. No, that's not what they're doing. No wonder why Trump wants to take over Gaza. There's some crazy stuff happening. So what we're going to do is go item by item on this list, because I don't want you to only know how much money they have spent on all of these foreign countries. I want you to see the result or lack thereof of it, so we can know, hey, did this really need to be $20 million, or could they have done it with $1 million, or is it something that they shouldn't have done at all? So number one on our list is $20 million spent for an Iraqi Sesame Street. So here is a little version of that. Hey, 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 Enya. Enya. So for this one, I guess that the cost could possibly be in the tens of millions because the production looks really good. The sound quality is really great as well. However, what is so bizarre is why the US government needs to fund this if this is a private media company. I was so happy when I saw this video from Elena Cardone because she gave me a good hint. She says that despite Sesame Workshop making $187 million a year, meanwhile, their co-founder, a Democrat, donated $300,000 to PAC supporting Hakeem Jeffries, who is fighting to protect USAID's funding. At the same time, they're pushing LGBTQ stuff. Who funded this? Who benefits? And of course, I mean, there always is some type of kickback. Otherwise, why? Why would they do this? I don't know what this means, but I just found it so funny that I found this picture of Hillary Clinton, and she says, "Big Bird needs a home. Sesame Street has been teaching kids and celebrating the power of community for over 50 years. With the news that HBO declined to make new episodes, help the Sesame Street studio stay in business of nurturing children for generations to come. Link in my profile." I mean, isn't this just a little bit weird? So the show is called Ahlal Simsim, and it was designed to promote inclusion, mutual respect, and understanding. Of course it was. So yeah, this is their website for anybody who paid a lot of money in taxes. Just know that it went to making this website. I'll show you some of the characters if that makes you feel better, just knowing that you helped and do this. This is Bosma. This is Jad, Mzuzu, and Amara. So thank you to the American taxpayer for this. Number 2 on our list is the $2 million that was spent for Moroccan pottery classes. The Moroccans have been making pottery for thousands of years. Does this really seem like something that America could or should help with? This video and a couple of websites were all that I could find of this money in play. Basically, they had some type of meeting where artists from all over the world got together and shared their art, and they talked to each other and had a nice time. However, I don't know if that needed to cost $2 million in some flights and hotels, but who knows where it really went. They spent millions of dollars on this project, and it says that the pottery program was riddled with problems. A translator hired to translate the instructions from an English-speaking pottery trainer to Arabic-speaking attendees was not fluent in English. They couldn't even find somebody who spoke both languages. That's the negligence that goes into this type of funding. Number 3 on our list is $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash. This article posted in 2022 let me know the name of this project, which is Reducing Pollution. Then this document shares that it was supposed to be a 5-year project going until 2026, aiming to promote local incentives and strengthen the capacity of organizations and networks in Vietnam to address environmental pollution challenges through a collective impact approach. A recent article shared that this problem could affect the entire world, and also that Vietnam loses an estimated $2.2 to $2.9 billion annually due to unrecovered plastic waste associated with pollution. However, then I found another article that says the United States generates more plastic waste than any other country in the world. So how are we going to help another country with their pollution problems? That is comparable to hiring this rapper as your weight loss coach. So it was our government who helped make the law on environmental protection. And here it says that the environmental protection law that went into effect has turned cities into waste managers. The problem is no one knows how they're going to do it. Basically, the only thing they know to do is to round up the trash from houses and from businesses and put them in landfills or in places where they burn the trash. And it also says the changes to Vietnam's recycling sector are likely to unfold slowly as planning, infrastructure, investment, and enforcement are required, because that's how the government works. Everything is so slow, whereas if you put a business person in there like Elon Musk, maybe they'd get something done. When I asked the question as to if this has helped the environment in Vietnam, it says yes. Literally, the AI's response to this was like, oh, we're going to encourage this, or we're going to address this, but it's not saying how. Number 4 on our list was $27 million in gift bags for illegals. This is what was inside of these gift bags. You have some type of toothpaste brand, which people have looked up and they cannot find what brand of toothpaste this is. And also you have some wipies, some toilet paper, and a doll. Here you can see people stepping off of a bus with their little baggies. We can see that this is proudly funded by USAID, and let's also focus on the International Organization for Migration, since they are working so closely with the USAID. So what do? They help people migrate, basically. People who are vulnerable around the world. And not just that, but they provide to them loans for things like transportation and resettlement, and also housing, and they actually work with Airbnb. I had a preconceived notion that they were receiving everything for free, but I guess that they are actually getting in debt, because when they come, I guess they sign some papers saying that they are going to repay back all of these loans. However, they will owe absolutely no interest on it. Then I found a Fox News article that says lawmakers express concern that it gives resettlement organizations a vested financial interest in pushing the U.S. to take in more refugees each year. So even though they're not paying interest, somehow they are making money on these loans, and I guess they want to give out as many of them as possible. Wow, look at this number right here, guys. The IOM issued over $1 billion in transportation loans and only recovered $584 million. Wow. So they're really not making a whole lot of money back on these loans from migrants. I guess that's why they are considered, in a way, free, because if they're not going to repay them, they're going to report them to the credit card bureaus, and I don't know how that's going to affect them, but they sure have been getting a lot of money from USAID. $25 million, $2 million, almost $700,000. It just goes on and on. And then the U.S. Embassy in Chile really posts things like, oh, we're getting $387 million to help develop the plan for Venezuelan migrants. And they will freely talk about all the money that they're getting in other countries, but yet this information isn't readily available to Americans, the ones who are funding it. Number 5 on our list is all of the money that has gone to Afghanistan. You guys have heard of Pareto's rule, the 80-20 rule. It really seems like Afghanistan takes up 20% of the causes, but makes for 80% of the money being spent. You guys know that we have a really big opioid problem in our country. Now, opioids are derived from the opium poppy plant. And it's crazy that while Afghanistan is receiving hundreds of millions of dollars from the US, their opium cultivation in Afghanistan has spiked by 19% in 2024. This is actually an unfathomable amount of money. Over $2.9 billion in new assistance from the US government, including $2.14 billion in new commitments from USAID. And I guess that this is in the name of the global food security crisis. Let's put aside farming for a second and just ask the question as to how much has the U.S. spent on Afghanistan. And here it says the U.S. cost to date for the war in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2022 is $2.3 trillion. That is so crazy. Maybe we should just throw more money at the problem and that'll help things. The US has sent them $15 million so that they could count their population. They also were very helpful in the recovery of earthquakes, saying that they are the largest humanitarian donor to the impoverished region, providing $2 billion since the Taliban takeover. And here we have an entire article of ways that our money is being wasted in Afghanistan. It says $486 million for Death Trap aircraft that was later sold for $32,000. We have $335 million on a power plant that only used 1% of its capacity. Almost $500,000 on a building that melted in the rain. $34.4 million on a soybean program for a country that doesn't eat soy. $36 million on a military facility that several generals didn't want. Almost $40 million that created an awkward conversation for a U.S. ambassador. And $7.8 billion in fighting drugs while Afghans grow more opium than ever. Great job, guys. Seemingly, they also had $249 million to make a road, which they never did. This is like Gavin Newsom times 1,000. Times 1,000,000. And yet, for some reason, people are so angry that this corruption is being exposed. Just a quick side note, look at how much money these countries have received in the last 4 years. $41 million to Ukraine emergency food assistance, $41 million to realizing gender equality, $41 to building resilience through safety nets in South Sudan, $42 to climate smart agriculture, $42 to strengthening sexual and reproductive health in Benin, $42 to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, $42 million for Doctors Without Borders. It seems like they're going for a no borders anywhere kind of thing. Number 6 on our list is $1.5 million to Serbian DEI programs. Let's see what we can find about it. Oh, well, isn't this just so cute? $1 million for a little flower document. So the entire document is in Slavic. I'll translate some of it, but of course this, whatever this is included in there. It seems like a lot of the document is about inclusion and women. Here I just translated a random part. It says environmental actions should be appropriate framework for the organization of cooperation of young people from different areas and the involvement of young people from sensitive groups. So they need to go out and find young people from sensitive groups. And what I find really creepy about this document is this logo. Like it's an eyeball with a world in it. It's like, we are watching you kind of thing. Like it's so creepy. Number 7 on our list is a huge one. That's the Department of Education. It says that their budget for the fiscal year of 2025 is $82.4 billion. And guess what Trump had to say about them?
And I will shut down the federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the states where it belongs and where they can individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
I love it. And then, so also we have a post saying that the Department of Education had $1.2 million for LGBTQIA plus pride centers in San Diego community colleges. And then they're out here actually making fools of themselves. They are so upset that they have lost their job. And Trump called them a bunch of lowlifes who don't love our country. And that is pretty obvious. Number 8 on our list was $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. Imagine what you could do with $47,000. It's so funny that they try to do like a little fact check on the website of this opera. It says It is an opera about a transgender person or character, or an opera with a transgender protagonist, but it's not a transgender opera. Fake news. I mean, it's actually so ridiculous that they try to pretend like this stuff doesn't exist. This right here was the cover for the opera, and I highly doubt that it was worth $47,000. Number 9 on our list is $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland. Here is a picture of that, and on their website, they wrote, "The Biden administration is committed to principles of DEI and access." So they're adding letters to everything, DEIA. It's more than just a DEI, it's DEIA. Of course, they have to add another letter. How can we have a video about taxpayer money waste and not mention the Clintons as number 10 on our list? Now, this is not factual. It's just what some person posted. They said that the Clintons got $85 million in U.S. aid money. Let me know if you guys think that that is true. Number 11 on our list is the $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $32,000. You might think that it's going to be a really good book, right? Well, just wait. They actually have gotten way more money than that. Here it says that they have been awarded $1 million. Let's see what they were able to make of it. Oh, great. Oh, isn't that great? They created a trash website with $1 million with a bunch of trash videos. It's just a bunch of diversity, LGBTQ stuff, and trans stuff. And they even put these priests in there. I mean, it's actually wild. But with the help of the US government, they got books, they got movies, they got reports, they got theaters, literature, interviews. So with all of this money, they have made books like this. The Love Between Two Women. Wow. Stories of diversity, the best art and culture from LGBTQIQ. It's so interesting how they adjust the letters for certain countries. Sometimes they leave it at B. Sometimes they put a plus. It's like so ridiculous. Premiums. Trans stories, The Virgin of the Floral, Men, Flowers, and Transvestites. And of course they have kids' books as well. This right here is the book that they spent $32,000 on. Looks like it was created by an AI generator, but wow, look at our American flag. Aren't we so happy to see this? Please explain to me, why does our government need to spend $32,000 on this? I don't get it. The hourly pay for somebody who works for USAID in California makes about $29 per hour. And people like Samantha Powers are now out of jobs. And that's great because they have been wasting a lot of taxpayers' money on their salaries and all the ridiculous things that they spend money on. People have been sharing online how Samantha's assets were $6.7 million to $16.5 million in 2021, and just 3 years later, it jumped to $30 million, even though she makes about $180,000 annually. It's pretty crazy, right? But ultimately, a huge waste of taxpayers' money. That was number 13 on the list. There's quite a few examples of people in our government getting caught in money laundering schemes. Then we have things like Assyrian National, who was illegally diverting more than 9 million US funded humanitarian aid funds. And that's the thing, when we're sending this money overseas, we're not tracking it well, and clearly a lot of it, most of it, is being wasted. That's why it makes so much sense that they have shut these buildings and departments completely down, because they actually are criminal organizations. Please triple check that you guys are subscribed. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Bye.